about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
And we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So President Trump launched Moms.gov. This is a pretty cool website for pregnant and expectant mothers. I like this because anytime I had a patient who was pregnant, newly pregnant, they could come to me. But if they didn't necessarily have an OB-GYN or didn't have resources, I would refer them to the CDC. I would provide resources. But once I closed my practice, the majority of people would go online and then go to one site or another website. And if for many individuals that don't currently have a medical provider, which is really sad because you used to have a medical provider, you would be going to your gynecologist every year, you would be getting your birth control, and then when you got pregnant, you would be seeing that doctor. Now the average person doesn't have a doctor, so when they do become pregnant, they have to then scramble and try to find somebody right away. And so they might have questions on what should they be doing. Well, you need to start your prenatal vitamins. You need to be on folic acid. You need to be, avoiding certain medications if you're pregnant. So there's got to be a go-to. The CDC has good data, but a lot of people, they don't know, where the CDC, they got to search. So Moms.gov apparently is for new and expectant moms to go and get information. And it also includes information on the Trump accounts, because after you give birth, you might be forgetting that, you could qualify for that, which is, I think, a really, really good deal. So when you go to moms.gov, and I'm going to be, making sure that the information is accurate. On the outset, I don't see anything wrong. They talk about federally qualified health centers to let people know that there are places they could go. You could search and find an FQHC near you so you can get care. There's also pregnancy centers that are providing care, STD, STI screening, ultrasounds. There's also a link that'll direct you to an external site and then, help you. They say here that the link, all external links should be carefully considered, but at least it does redirect you to finding a medical center that you could go to. Then they also bring up nutritional quick facts for mothers. Pregnant women should consume diverse nutrient-dense foods, including iron-rich meats, folate-rich greens, legumes, eggs, dairy, low-mercury, omega-3 rich seafoods like salmon, sardines, trout, and should talk to their healthcare provider professional about taking a daily prenatal vitamin. And the CDC recommends 400 micrograms of folic acid daily. And then it gives you links to the dietary guidelines for Americans. And then there's the link for you to enroll eligible children for the Trump account. Just to recap, eligible children enrolled in Trump accounts are going to receive $1,000 from the U.S. Treasury in an account that they can access when they are 18. These are investment accounts, tax advantaged, and that they hope that by the time a child is 18, they'll have tens of thousands of dollars in this account, which is, I think, going to be very, very helpful, especially if they want to get a home or college, etc. And then that also links you back to Trump RX. They say there's a range of medical treatments that exist to help couples build their families, addressing ovulatory dysfunction, hormonal imbalances, insulin resistance, excess weight, may improve fertility outcomes. The only thing I want to say with that is be careful. So here's the thing. Trump RX is fantastic in terms of like good RX. They offer coupons, ways for you to get medications cheaper. I do not want somebody that is about to be pregnant or considering being pregnant going on these weight loss drugs. You have to be very, very careful because you cannot be pregnant while on them. It could hurt the baby. So when we have somebody who is trying to lose weight before they get pregnant, You might actually rebound with your weight. So I would just use a little bit of caution with that. I wouldn't directly advertise to people about to get pregnant and wanting to start a family to go on the weight loss drugs. I could be misreading that. But they are correct at saying excess weight and addressing your excess weight could improve fertility outcomes. They're not wrong about that. And then they provide resources for women and parents like preconception health, breastfeeding information, nutrition, fertility awareness-based methods to recognize signs of your fertile period, identify underlying health conditions like polycystic ovarian syndrome and endometriosis. They're also, Trump has been an advocate for IVF, in vitro fertilization, and care and benefits for that. I'm not exactly sure where that link is, but they do provide additional resources such as protections. They say there's federal conscious protections that are most likely to affect you when making a decision about your own care and child's care, child welfare, access to benefits, sleep safety. They also give links and resources for those who use substances like cannabis, alcohol, cigarettes. They have information on STIs, HIV, toxoplasmosis, West Nile, things like that, health conditions like diabetes, and then pregnancy, radiation exposure information, reproductive health in the workplace. So pretty helpful. I would look at it, obviously, anything that you decide to do, make sure you double check with your medical provider. Like I said, we have right now an epidemic of people who don't have a medical provider, and they may go online and talk to a telehealth provider. If they do that, we'll give them as much information as we can. So I think Moms.gov is good. Trump wants to show that he is being supportive of women, and he's done a lot of executive, shall we say, he's done executive orders, and launching something like this, I think is very, very helpful. As I said, I'm really excited about those Trump accounts. I love the idea of kids having something to start, for us to, take on, the idea of okay, well, babies are expensive, and then they're college, and then they may not have a job, and we might have to support them for life. As far as I'm concerned, having babies was the best thing ever. But people are fearful. They're a little scared. And so something like this, I think, can be very, very helpful, especially in getting that child to start some sort of fiscal literacy and starting to at least have some assets to their name. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Don't go away.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020 for a free consultation. For 16 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Battling for years and years stuck in the endless cycle of minimum payments could take decades. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020. That's 800-878-6020. 800-878-6020.
Hi guys, Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping, addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot's Secret Gasoline Extreme, the solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot's Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
And we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. All right, got some 80s going on. I miss the 80s. 1-877-Dr. Dahlia, 1-877-DOCDALI. A big thanks to Daniel, our producer, who is just knocking it out of the park. He's awesome. I got to tell you, I grew up in the 80s. And one thing that I found that really, I think, shall we say, characterized those of us that grew up in the 80s was the one is I think we had a little easier, than other generations. And we didn't really have to worry about a draft, after, the Vietnam pullout in the 70s. We figured in the 80s we were going to be pretty good. Reagan was president. The music was awesome. The music was awesome. I didn't particularly like high school. I went to 4. One of my high schools I liked. But when you grow up, you still have the trials and tribulations, being a kid and bullied and things like that. But just, the 80s, it was hope. I mean, I really, really, if I stick, my nose to my books, keep my nose to my books, I don't get myself in trouble, stay away from drugs, all those fried egg commercials, if I, if I drink Diet Coke instead of Coca-Cola, right? All those commercials, I'll be able to look like Cheryl Tiegs and Christy Brinkley, or drink Tab. If I, do what I'm told, things are going to work out. And interestingly, I was a goody two-shoes. I got in trouble a lot in school because I cussed a lot. One of the reasons why I cussed a lot is my father, English was a second language. And most of the initial words in English that he learned were the cuss words. So all I heard was cuss words in my house. And those words were much easier for me to say. So, of course, at school, they were just exuding from my vocabulary. So I'd get in trouble with that. I'd also get in trouble being a class clown and all that. But in terms of, as a teacher, you tell me to do something, you tell me to get some work done, you tell me to do a job, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it 110%. No quitting, no pain, no gain, all that. This was infused in the 80s. And there was this promise that if I did what I was told and I worked my ass off, the American dream is going to work for you. And I talked to my sons and my nephews and all the younger generation, not lower, the younger generation, by no means lower. And I tell them, I go, you guys have it much harder than we do, because I just have to follow the rules, follow the template, follow the. Now, I did fear, what if I didn't get into medical school? Because I don't have money. I can't pay for fancy Kaplan classes to get high scores. I'm making $4.15 an hour at Jack in the Box. I'm not going to be able to, and I got to work multiple part-time jobs. I'm not going to be able to do these fancy test review courses and do what the rich people do to get into fancy schools. Luckily, I did get into medical school first shot. So I was pretty happy about that. And I was able to do that. If I didn't, I had plan B. And it was to go into marketing, human resources, and then reapply wait tables. Let's go to wait tables, because you made a lot of good money on tips in Vegas at the time in the 80s and 90s. And then in the 90s, especially, because that's when now I was applying to medical school. And then I was going to just try again. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Just keep going. Baby steps, keep going. Keep moving forward. And the younger generation, they don't have that. And they're smarter in that respect. And so when you have now a Gen Z, let's say, and then pretty soon Generation Alpha, who says, look, this field doesn't want me. It might look like they're quitting. Oh, you're giving up. You're supposed to try. You're supposed to apply to 1,000 jobs to hopefully get one. But they're not hiring. Things have changed. I need to know when to shift and when to pivot. And so a problem that I think my generation has was Gen X. As I said, baby boomers were born 45 to 65. I give it to 40. If you were born in the 40s, because most of my relatives in their who are born 42, 44 say they're baby boomers. I agree, whatever. Post World War, when military was on leave, fine. Baby boomers through 65. Gen X, 1965 to 1980, they were born. Millennials, 1980 to 1995, roughly. Gen Z, 1995 to 2010. Generation Alpha, 2010 to 2015. I'm sorry, 2010 to 2025. And then Generation Beta started after 2025, although I don't think they're going to keep those Alpha Beta names. I think somebody's going to come up with something kind of cool, or, Hunger Games-ish or something. But, I don't pivot well. Why? Because when something's ingrained, and that's the way you do things, and you don't question it, and you trust the system, a lot of people my age are now struggling. Now, these Gen Zs, they're struggling too, because they were promised, if you spent 60 grand for a college education, or 100 grand or 200 grand, this is what's going to happen. And they were lied to. So lie to them once, fool me once, and fool me twice. So they're not going to fall for what I notice my generation is starting to fall for. And I've become flexible. I'm starting to get some flexibility, but I'm starting to find that I'm not happy with the way things are changing. Like, for example, with medicine. I mean, I'm seeing horrific pathology because people just don't go to the doctor anymore. But what the Gen Zs have taught us is, your doctor is not going to be the same as your grandmother's doctor or your great grandfather's doctor. It's medicine's different now. You go online. You see is it Dr. Drew, who's selling an urgent care for your house where you have your own antibiotics. And I get it. Having, a stash of antibiotics and some medicine's nice to have. But now the term urgent care is changing. When a patient called and was having something significant go on, I go, well, you need to, go to an urgent care. I would get seen. And they're like, but you're the urgent care. And I thought they were joking. No, but it's because the company calls it urgent care. They call it urgent care if you call a doctor and the doctor gives you advice over the phone. And I'm glad doctors are giving advice over the phone. I think telemedicine offers a great service. But an urgent care, I worked in an urgent care. And I'm not getting my feathers ruffled, but I was doing codes in an urgent care. I was sewing people up. I was doing x-rays. I mean, splinting. Some of the urgent cares were like mini ERs. And now you're calling a telephone consult with a doctor in urgent care? And so, I'm looking at what the Gen Zs are doing, and I'm trying to learn from them. But I think they're still trying to find their way, a lot of them, because they don't expect to have a job that lasts more than a year or two. They expect to be replaced by AI. They expect to, expect to not have the funds to get married, to have a family, to deal with a divorce. And they're really looking at what the Gen X's and the baby boomers and even the older millennials did and said, we don't have to do that anymore. I think I was watching Tulsa King, and one of the characters is going through a divorce. And I pause it and I tell my husband, I go, this is exactly why a lot of people don't want to get married. And I've had friends that went through a divorce. It destroyed them. And so when their kids take a look at the parents going, why would I get married? Just for it to get ugly? And then I don't have access to my kids? And then somebody else is raising my kids? And then I'm spending alimony and then palimony and all that? No. So we're not at the point yet where the Gen Z can kind of come up with their new rules and their new template. Like, I knew what to do because the baby boomer said, this is what you do. And the traditionalist said, this is what you do. And if you do this, you're going to be successful. So now I'm trying to give the same advice to the millennials and Gen Zs and my students. And they're like, but it's different. That's not going to work anymore. And so we are going to need for Generation Alpha and Generation Beta the recipe from Gen X and millennials on how to navigate and what to do. And many of these recipes are for influencing. I mean, they knew how to take good for them. They knew how to make money on the internet. They knew how to do influencing and get ads paid and all that, while, people like me are still kind of struggling. They knew what they were doing, but in terms of that roadmap on how to be successful, that's missing. And it's because things are so rapidly evolving. And I see the anxiety people are having with that, and I see the lack of direction. So we got to slowly start designing that so the younger generations know what to do. 1-877-Doc-Dolly.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
We are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So there's been a variety of statistics looking at cancer. When I was in medical school, we were taught that 1 in 2 people will get some sort of cancer in their life, even if it's a benign tumor. American Cancer Society says 1 in 3 Americans face a risk of cancer diagnosis in their lifetime. And in my family, breast cancer is common. Breast cancer affects 1 in 8 of us. But I got to tell you, the people surviving breast cancer are sharing their story, reaching out, and saving lives. And one such person I'm so excited to have is Broadway actress, cancer survivor, and advocate, social media influencer, Sarah Bentley. She is teaming up with AFLAC to launch a new campaign called Checked for Cancer, with the goal of increasing early cancer screenings by 10% over the next decade. As you know, Sarah Bentley is a Broadway actress and co-founder of A Chance for Life. A Chance for Life is a nonprofit that funds surrogacy for breast cancer survivors. Wow. Sarah, we are so excited to have you. Welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Dr. Dahlia. I'm thrilled to be here to share my story and to tell you a little bit more about this amazing campaign with AFLAC.
Yeah, and it's not easy. I mean, you were diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. You were only 38 years old. And, that's very traumatizing. And here you are, willing to share, your cancer journey. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, my story is my superpower, right? And by telling it, I hope to reach at least one of your listeners. I had an itch underneath my armpit. I went down to scratch it, and I found a lump the size of a walnut. And my doctors, they brushed it. They didn't think it was anything serious, but I know my body so well, as a professional dancer and a yogi, and I just knew something wasn't right. So I advocated fiercely for more tests, and eventually, after multiple biopsies, I was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. And, that's why I've teamed up with AFLAC on the Check for Cancer campaign, because of my advocacy for myself and my own health, I saved my own life. And I want to help others do the same. I mean, early detection, it really matters.
So true. And I can't tell you how many times patients feel intimidated by their medical provider because they say, no, you're too young. Or, no, it's nothing. In fact, we opened the show talking about itching and how sometimes an itch is a sign that you could have something underlying. So it's just so telling that these are the ways your body, like you said, your body, and so thank God it was caught at stage 2. And so how did your treatment go and your recovery?
Yeah, I thank God every day for that itch, Dr. Dahlia. I'm telling you, thank you, itch. But yeah, I was diagnosed at stage 2, which is considered early stage breast cancer. And there's no easy stage of breast cancer. I mean, this rocked my life and changed the entire course of it. However, the most important thing I want everyone to hear is that because it was caught early, it was treatable, right? And this is why AFLAC is here to talk about this Check for Cancer campaign with myself, because they're like a lot more than just an insurance company. And a lot of people don't know that, but they're pioneers when it comes to cancer insurance. So raising awareness through this campaign together, we hope to increase cancer screenings by 10% in the next 10 years. It's such an important message.
Love it. Love it. So talk to us about Check for Cancer.
Yeah. All right. This is a wild stat. Are you ready? AFLAC did a study showing that 60% of people skip their routine medical exams and screenings. Yet we know that early detection can boost survival rates above 90%. And that's why we're here with this movement. And we want to make it very simple for everyone, right? So checkered patterns, a chessboard, a checkered flag, a checkered pair of sneakers. Anytime you see a check, you're reminded to get checked. And not only that, but the social, it's so great, right? I mean, it's so obvious. It's right in front of you. There's checkers everywhere. And the social media component is that every time you post using hashtag Check for Cancer, AFLAC contributes $5 to childhood cancer care and research up to $1 million. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I'm doing my mammogram in November, and we got Breast Cancer Awareness Month coming up. We have so absolutely hashtag Check for Cancer, because wow, you're helping save children's lives and adults' lives with reminding them of such a great campaign. We're speaking with Broadway actress, cancer survivor, and advocate social media influencer Sarah Bentley. So 60% of people avoid routine health checkups from the AFLAC survey. So, we think we know why, but how do you? I mean, I know as a doctor, but that's kind of intimidating. How do you send that message, resonate that message to those individuals who are apprehensive about going and getting checked?
Yeah, when I felt that lump, I already was terrified, right? What could it be? What could they tell me? If I go to get checked, what if they tell me it's cancer? And I almost stopped at the front door of the radiologist's office because of that fear. And I took a deep breath and I said, knowledge is power. Because you know what's scarier? Not knowing. And if I wouldn't have gotten those tests, my doctor said my cancer was so aggressive, I could have been stage 4 if I would have waited just a few more months. And this is what I want you to walk away with. The data on early detection is all around us. It's everywhere. With early detection, most cancers are far more treatable, right? So don't wait. Take a deep breath and know knowledge is your power.
So true. So what's next for you in your career?
Yeah, speaking of power, my story is my superpower. So I'm going to continue to tell it wherever people will hear it, through this campaign with AFLAC Check for Cancer, and through my advocacy for all cancer survivors and people going through it, as well as with my nonprofit. We raise money to give full surrogacy journeys to breast cancer survivors. As a new mama, I'm a mama of a 20-month-old baby boy, brought here via surrogacy. I got my chance. His name is Chance. After breast cancer, and I want to have women be able to have their chance too.
Oh my gosh! Well, you are. I had a friend of mine that had stage 3 cervical cancer, and she was like, "How could this happen to me?" And she survived it. And I go, sometimes I feel this is God's way or nature's way of protecting others by people such as yourself with such enthusiasm and passion, for other people, to save lives. And so, it's a shame you had to go through what you went through, but you're turning it into something good. And God bless you for that. I really appreciate what you and AFLAC are doing.
Well, thank you, Dr. Dahlia. Yeah, that's why, teaming up with Aflac, who is just as passionate as I am about helping people have the right kind of information to know that checking for cancer is giving you a leg up on anything that could be happening in your body is a very, it's what I aim to do. So I want to let you guys know, though, if you want to have any more information on this campaign, there's so much more to talk about. Aflac.com/check-for-cancer. All of the resources are there, screening checklists, employers, toolkits, and just all the good ways to get proactive about your own health.
Absolutely. Thank you. I was going to ask where to get more information. One more time, if you could give us the website.
Yes. Get your pens out. Aflac.com/check-for-cancer.
Wonderful. #check-for-cancer. Love you, Sarah, so much. Can't wait to have you back. Thank you and Aflac for all you do.
Thank you, Dr. Dahlia.
Anytime. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So when I had my breast cancer scare, I was, because I had blood coming from one side, one breast, and that's never anything good. And I'm sitting there waiting for my mammogram and for my biopsy, and I'm hearing people giggle, in the back of the doctor's office and things. And I'm just thinking to myself, going, gosh, why can't I be like them? Why can't I, why can't I, ignorance is bliss sort of thing. But I got to tell you, catching something early and getting ahead of it is actually the blessing. And so, I understand it's intimidating to go and get checked out. I get it. It's not easy. I hate going to the doctor, and I am a doctor. But get yourself checked out. 1-877-DOC-DALI. Don't go away.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles, along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So for years, I've been talking about some of the risks with antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication. Even though they may do amazing in terms of curbing somebody's anxiety, somebody's depression, there could be some problems when they start to feel better. So, for example, when somebody is really, really depressed and we start to treat them and they start to feel better, sometimes that coming from that abyss right there is the most, shall we say, vulnerable in terms of them deciding suicidality. When they're at the abyss, oftentimes people are so depressed that they just don't have the energy to try to kill themselves or the motivation to. But once they start feeling better, they go, you know what, I'm going to do it. And so when you do treat somebody with depression, if they say, I'm feeling better, I'm starting to feel better right away, you don't just go off and say, great, I'll see you in a couple weeks. You need to watch them closely because they could be feeling better to the point where they decide to act on things that they've wanted to act on before. But another issue we also have with antidepressants is the going off of them. What if somebody doesn't get the prescription filled? What if the pharmacy runs out? What if their insurance switches? What if they can't afford the copay? And so a big issue we've been having, which we've discussed on the show over the years, is are some of these people, that these criminals or mass shooters or suicide attempts or suicide committing individuals in that window of, I haven't gotten my medication and I went from doing well to now the abyss. You know, we speak about this with Ozempic and Zepbound and Wegovy, these weight loss drugs. Everybody's talking about how when you go on them, the heart health, the decrease in, so many risk factors for your liver, your kidneys, your heart, going on these medications and losing the weight, how quickly you could protect, vital organs and health. But we need to know the studies of the people that go off of them. How quickly is the rebound and how bad is that? So we've spoken for years of people going off of these antidepressants. Whoa. Whether it's withdrawal symptoms, whether it's them not being able to get their medication that they need, their behavior could be erratic, could be inconsistent, could be deadly to them or to others, depending on what they were taking and what they were taking it for. And so when you start an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety medication, you have to be there for the after. Yeah, I teach medical students this all the time. If you're going to start an ADHD medication, then what? So if that child needs it, for third grade, what are you going to do when they're in fifth grade? What about high school? Are they going to also then need it for college? Are they going to need it for a job? Starting a medication is easy. I could write a prescription, piece of cake. But now you got to manage it. And you also have to decide, when do they go off? When do they not need it? And so there's a process that many doctors aren't following because they don't see you again. You only see a doctor once and then you get somebody new. See, I was trained as a family doctor. So you used to see me for years. I loved it because I could say, wait a second, back in 2004, you did this, but then in 2007, you reacted better. I mean, I hadn't, even if I didn't have the chart, I remembered because I was taking care of them for so long. Now the average person sees a different doctor every time. So the doctor's like, well, here's your prescription, here's your refill. Who's doing that long-term management? Well, a study out of the UK said, look, not only do we have to worry about withdrawal symptoms in the short term, but long term. And the longer you're on a medication, the longer your withdrawal symptoms can go. So according to a study out of the UK, they surveyed NHS patients, which is their health system, and found that people who had used antidepressants for more than 2 years were 10 times more likely to have withdrawal effects, 5 times more likely for those effects to be severe. This is if you were on them for more than 2 years, and 18 times more likely for them to be long-lasting compared to those who only took the drugs for 6 months or less. For patients who used antidepressants for less than 6 months, withdrawal symptoms were mostly mild and brief. 3/4 reported no or mild symptoms, most of which lasted less than 4 weeks. Only 1 in 4 of these patients, this is being reported by Science Alert, was unable to stop when they wanted to. But for long-term users, more than 2 years of use of antidepressants, 2/3 reported moderate to severe withdrawal effects, 1/4 reporting severe withdrawal effects. So for individuals, in fact, 1/3 of long-term users had symptoms for 3 months. 4/5 of those patients just couldn't stop their antidepressants. They had to go back on them. Now, in the UK, 2 million people are on antidepressants. In the US, 25 million people. Now, there's a bunch of different types of antidepressants, but we spoke about how one group works, the SSRIs, the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Basically, when your body shoots out serotonin, the serotonin helps with your mood, with your pain control. Serotonin is involved in a lot of bodily functions, your bowel. And so a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor selectively inhibits the reuptake of the serotonin, so more of it gets to still stay active in the system before it gets scooped up. Well, your body will start to compensate and make more of these receptors, open them up again, open up more receptors. So now if you went from Prozac 10, let's say, or Paxil 10, all right, now you're going to have to go up to Paxil 20, and then or Prozac 20, and then Prozac 40. And let's say you stop the medication. Now you have all these receptors that have now been compensatorily created, now empty. So when you do shoot out your natural serotonin, zoop, it gets sucked up fast. And so withdrawal from an SSRI is real. Withdrawal from an SNRI is real. If your brain is getting used to the dopamine and the epinephrine and then it doesn't get it anymore. Now, I'm not saying don't go on them. If you need to be on them, you need to go on them. Life is too short. And to manage depression and anxiety properly, it's not only medications, but therapy and a whole comprehensive plan, exercise, diet. But we have a system in medicine now where I fear January 1. Every January 1, I am seeing millions of people either lose their insurance or have to switch. Their employer is paying high rates, so they switch to a company where the rates might be cheaper. I've had to change insurance multiple times, and I have personal health insurance. Why? Because a company decides to skyrocket the rates. They say, well, we have to pay for people and their Wegovy. I go, I'm not on Wegovy. Well, we have to pay for that. So then I'm like, well, I'm going to drop you and I'm going to find a cheaper insurance. So the problem is every time your insurance changes, thank God I'm not on any chronic medications. The only thing I take is some bioidentical hormones, which I pay cash for. Insurance doesn't even pay for that for me. Because they don't, which I still don't understand why I'm paying for insurance, but neither here nor there. So the average person runs the risk of losing their medication or losing their medication coverage or having to switch. That's why we always recommend generic, because most insurance companies cover generic. But if somebody doesn't get their medication, what happens in that short term? What happens in that long term? And sometimes these withdrawal symptoms are something you internally have to deal with, where you can't sleep and you're not feeling well. But for some people, they act out, lash out to other individuals. And so I agree that if somebody is on medication and somebody needs medication, you have to be prepared for what happens if they don't get that medication. Now, for mild depression, mild anxiety, we don't want you on the medicine long term. Many of these medications are looked at as, what to do in the short term. Somebody died, you lost a job. But, there's many people that get dependent on them. And now they're on them long term. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away. Dr. Dahlia here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Lisa Wolf here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you. And be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.